Hello and welcome to YouTube to Hobby Maker's tutorial channel. My name is Gwen Fletcher and in this video I'd like to help you understand a few of the tips and tricks that we can use to get the best from our dies in our die cutting machine and talk about cardstock and different materials and that sort of thing. So let's get started. So one of the first things that's really important to learn is how to care for your dies and how to look after them to help them give you lots of life. So if you have an intricate die, a little bit like this one, intricate in that it has lots of little shapes that are going to cut out, it's really important that you clean your dies out of all those little bits and pieces. So when we pop this through the die cutting machine, we have it between our two cutting plates and we have it facing down onto the cutting plate underneath. So when this cuts, all those little bits are going to come out of the die. But also, bits will be left on our cutting plate. Now, I like to remove those every time I cut, because if you then cut on top of those, they will imprint into whatever you cut next. So that's important to clean your plates, but it's really important as well to clean your dies. So it's important to have something with a point. You might hear these referred to as piercing tools, pokey tools, die picks. All of them apply to a pointed tool, much like this one. And the dies have these little holes for you to push through, and that will release your shape from the die. Now this one, most of it has come out of the die, but there's just one little piece left there. Now it's quite easy when you're in the kerfuffle that is our craft desk to want to put that away somewhere safe, and you might leave a few little bits in there. When you come to use the die again, that's going to interfere with the next time you want to cut with it. So each time you've used a die, just check that you've taken out all those little bits. I find if I hold it against my hand, I can clearly see if there's a little piece still stuck in there, looking at it from the back. Now I can pop that back in its packaging and keep it safe. And then we need to take all these little bits out from the die. Don't think because they haven't all popped out that something's wrong, that the die hasn't cut properly. It has, but the nature of the way dies cut just means that sometimes the fibres in the cardstock can hang on, and they just need a little bit of encouragement just to completely pop out. So it's still a really clean cut, but you just need to make sure you remove all those little bits and pieces. And then we've got a really beautiful filigree butterfly there with all these delicate little cutworks in there. So that's one thing that's important to get into the habit of doing. Clean your dies, clean your cutting plate, and keep everything neat and tidy. The next thing I want to just mention is about the plates. I get asked an awful lot about how to look after the dies, the plates in the machine. They do bow, and this is perfectly natural. This is a workhorse, and it's designed, when you cut into it, it takes all the strain, and it goes under the rollers where there's an awful lot of pressure, and it is going to bow. That's just what happens. Again, it's not a fault, and it's not something you've done wrong. You can minimise it though by rotating your plates. So one time you might put this edge in, the front edge in first. The next time, if you rotate it and put this edge in first, and also by actually flipping the plate completely over, that will help minimise the bowing of your plates. But also I would say, if it happens really quickly and really badly, it may be that the pressure on your machine is quite heavy, and you might need to have a look at that, perhaps reduce the thickness that you're putting through the machine. So that was just a little thing I wanted to mention. If your plate does get really, really so that you feel you can't put it through the machine, then you can actually pour boiling water over it into a baking tray or the sink or something like that. Stand a really heavy pot, also full of boiling water, on top of it for about half an hour, and that will help to straighten the plate, and it will also clean the plate. So that's another little thing you can do from time to time. But eventually your plates are going to need replacing. They are considered a consumable, much like a bottle of glue or a roll of tape. They do eventually need replacing. So, you know, don't get too hung up about keeping your plates perfect. It's not what they're designed for. However, one thing I would say to you is, and this is something I always try to do, is to keep one of your plates as clean and smooth as possible. I do this for a number of reasons. I do it so that one plate stays flat. I do it so that the other plate gets cut into a lot, so that when it does eventually need replacing, I'm only actually replacing one and not two every time. I find that helps my plates last longer. But one of the main reasons is, if I want to cut something like a mirror card, if I've got lots of cut marks on my plate, these become imprinted in the surface of the mirror card. Because mirror card, and ordinary card, but it's really going to show on mirror card. So when you're cutting down onto this plate, if I pop a die like this and I'm cutting down, and I'm cutting against this plate, this surface is going to get really heavily marked. So if I've got a plate which is smooth, and that's going to go against the mirror surface, then it keeps the mirror surface lovely and smooth. And that, although it's much more obvious on mirror card, is also true of all your other card stock. So if I want to keep my mirror card from having scratches and scuffs and marks on it, I need a smooth plate to go against the mirrored surface. So if we now have a look at this, you can see that that is lovely and smooth, and it's not got lots of cut marks in it. Whereas if I'd had the other plate facing this side, it would have been all scratched and scuffed. So I'm going to show you now what will happen if we do what I said not to do, which is to put the mirror surface of the card against our very scuffed plate. So let's take a chance and see what's going to happen. And whilst I'm doing that, I can also give you another top tip, which is that when you are cutting dies that have a very straight edge like this, if you put them into the machine straight, and we've talked about this before, but I just wanted to mention it again, if you put them in the machine straight, when it hits the roller, it's going to not like it very much at all, because it's hitting all of that straight edge at one go. So all you need to do is twist it slightly, put it on the wonk, and you'll get a much better and easier flow through the machine. But what we want to do on this occasion, this is just for an example, so this is what not to do, is I'm going to put my mirror card to my scuffed plate, okay, and I put it on a wonk, and then I'm going to put my lovely clean plate. So you can see now that the die is actually going to be cutting into this plate. Okay, and that's fine. It is there for that purpose, but this is why I try to keep one of my plates clean. Doesn't always happen. We make mistakes, we forget what we're doing, and you know, you'll get a few marks on there, but if you minimise it, you'll find you get better results if you can remember these little tips. So now, I don't know if we can get close up on this, but it's really crazed the surface of that mirror card. Can you see all the marks that have reflected off my cutting plate into that mirror surface? I mean, you might like that look if you're going for a grungy look, but I wanted a nice shiny piece of silver card and I haven't got that. So that's just a tip to help you avoid that problem, because it may happen and you might not know why it's happened. So if we have a look at the original one, but the original one, I hope you can see, is much more smooth and hasn't got marks in it like this one has.